Having been raised by a salesman, worked as a salesman, written books about selling, and spent over 40 years delivering workshops in selling, this is not a topic that's new to me. But what's refreshing to me is when I get an opportunity to talk to someone who doesn't just sell, but puts that same level of energy in taking care of the customer. Let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk because there's talking the talk and then there's walking the walk. And today we take a walk.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jollis.
Today's guest, Sarah Pichardo, helps families build wealth through home ownership and what she calls the American dream. She's the senior vice president with CMG Home Loans, has been in the top 1% of mortgage loan originators in the U.S. for over 15 years. She believes knowledge is power, and her goal is to educate and prepare her clients so they can confidently proceed, secure in knowing that they have the best mortgage to fit their needs. She's also the author of the book, How to Make Your Lender Love You. Sounds good to me. Happy to have you with us and welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. And it's a pleasure. So let's dive right in. And, I opened the show referring to walking the walk regarding customer care. I know a little bit about you, and I have never met a person or a company who said, we don't believe in that. And yet there are big differences. Meaning, I've never met a person who truly goes to the level of customer care that you do. Again, I hear other companies say, we'll do that, but they have differences. I would love people to hear your vision of customer care.
Well, I believe in doing the right thing. I believe in treating them as you would treat yourself or someone that you truly love. I mean, they really are my family, and I treat them as such. I really look for solutions and try to find something that will really, truly work for them.
Well, I think that's the title of your next book, which is Treat Them Like Family, because I think you do. And like I said, I have firsthand knowledge of this. So we want to do it like it's for our family. That is the key.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. The golden rule, treat others the way you wish to be treated.
Absolutely. All right. Well, when you have the heart of a salesperson, I think you can sell anything up with the caveat that you believe in it. Isn't it funny that phrase, by the way, that person can sell anything. I can't let that phrase go without saying, as long as we believe in it. Okay.
Correct.
So the fact is, I think that's the true heart of a salesman. But, and knowing you, the little bit that I know, I really feel that you do have the heart of a salesperson. You could sell anything you believe in. What got you into this particular industry?
Just a complete fluke. I never grew up thinking I would do mortgages. I literally, I guess I lived abroad quite a bit in my early marriage. And then when we came back to the US, I found myself cleaning a coffee pot with a Q-tip and started crying and said, I know there's something more. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And I went to see a headhunter, and the headhunter literally told me that I'm not marketable because I just don't have the job skills that I guess they were looking for. I had said, I want to do something in sales. And so interesting that you say I have a heart of a salesman, because that was what I felt I would be really good at. And I guess when they asked me what kind of sales, I said something that I believe in, something that, because I believe that a product really needs to sell itself, and I'm just there to facilitate. And to that, they basically said that, I'm not marketable. So that night I went to a concert. I have a little, one of my daughters plays the harp, and her best friend's mom sat beside me and goes, I'm so busy. I need to hire people and I don't even have time to interview. And I go, oh, yeah, I'm looking for a job. And so she says, can you start tomorrow? I said, sure. And then I guess after the concert was over, I go, Sherry, what do you do? And she goes, mortgages. And I go, I've got one. Great. I go, I don't know anything about mortgages. And she goes, don't worry, we'll train you. So that's how I got into mortgages.
Well, it's a little, I don't know if you know this, but I'm 13 years or so for volunteering tell people in career transition. So you'd be surprised, Sarah, how often I hear a story in a sense similar. I'll tell you the similar part. The going to the concert, the just having conversations with
Yeah.
people, and this thing happening. And
Right.
people would look at you and say, well, she's a very lucky person. I'd say no. I'd say the heart, luck certainly has something to do with it. But having the heart of a salesperson also means not hiding in a corner,
Right.
not feeling sorry for yourselves, engaging, having that conversation in a Safeway line, in this, it's a supermarket, it's a CVS, and that's where these stories now you've probably got a couple stories of prospects that you've met from having conversations in unusual places. But if you don't have the conversation, how do we find the prospect?
Exactly. So true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've always I interview a lot of authors and I'll ask them about the books, and it's pretty much the same thing. I think the line that we're looking for is frequently we don't find the career, it kind of finds us.
True.
And it's the same with the book. You don't just go, hey, I'm going to write a book. I don't really know what about. I don't have much passion for anything, but no, it doesn't happen that way. Something grabs you. So, okay, good. All right. Well, then you proved to us that even though maybe some people weren't listening, you do have the heart of a salesperson, clearly. And I think you've been probably proving a few people wrong. Uh, let's talk about your industry. And I think I know where you might go with this answer, but I'm curious. Most important thing that you've learned about your industry.
Knowledge, just absolute experience trying, because it's a very complex uh, industry. I mean, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of different options, different programs, guidelines are different. They're always changing. So it's really just, I think, having as much experience as you can, and then seeking out when you don't have it, seeking out the advice from others.
Right. There's in a lot of industries, there's continuing education. It's a
Mhm.
requirement.
It is.
Uh,
Mhm.
it wouldn't it be nice in some way to think that we didn't even have to be required, that people would say, if I'm in the business, I have to stay on the cutting edge. Work with some of the people that some of the realtors, and
Mhm.
I'm not going to name a name, but I'll tell you, there's one realtor in Virginia. I believe that she's the number one realtor in the state, um, over a billion in sales, big time realtor in Northern Virginia. And the funny thing is, because she's not retired, and until she does retire, she, to your point of knowledge, she doesn't see some of the houses on the market or most of the houses on the market in her area. She sees every single house, every house. So when she's working with a client, she's not, it isn't a puzzle for her. Uh, but that's coming from one of the greatest realtors probably in the country. The fact that she places knowledge and basically just kind of grinding it out there. I know there's other things to do than go to an open house, but isn't it funny how again it's a trait of successful people. They'll never reach the point where I've learned enough. I don't need to learn more. Sarah, let me just tell you, a real fast story. Then you owe me a story. But when I started as an insurance agent, I won't say the year, but this will help. We were just getting this newfangled thing in called a VCR. Okay, and we were going to tape agents at New York Life. We had 75 agents. Four of them were what we call chairman's council agents, top 1% of the company, making, late 70s, early 80s, making probably $1 million a year in sales. Think about that number today. And then we had a lot of agents. Then we had what's called apprentice field underwriters, AFUs, first 2 years of business. It was a requirement to be filmed if you were an AFU, to look at what you were doing. And then for the rest of the office, it was optional. We only had four people sign up other than the AFUs. Coincidentally, all four chairman's council agents, all four of the most knowledgeable people they had, saw an opportunity to get even a little bit better, and they jumped on that opportunity. So once again, you're reminding the audience that the moment you say, I think I've learned enough, I probably don't need to learn more, you need to learn to do something else.
Agree. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, now you owe me a story. That was a long Jala story there. Okay. So most important thing about your industry, I got. What's the most important thing about selling, in your opinion? And you can't use knowledge again.
Okay. I think just understanding the different structuring and trying to figure out what's best for the client and really putting yourself in their shoes so that you're really balancing their cash to close, monthly payment, finding out what's truly important to them, listening to them, making sure that just because they can doesn't mean they should. Everyone has different, I guess, lifestyles. And if one enjoys traveling or going out or helping family, then maybe they could qualify for more of a house, but maybe they shouldn't. And understanding what it is, what their goals are, and making sure that you're really striving to suit their goals rather than just doing a sale, a transaction.
Excellent, outstanding. And do you cue into personalities at all?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
there's right. Some people who really want a lot of details and some who really just want guidance and just the bullet points, so to speak.
Right. And I'm glad to hear you say that because for people who are listening, a lot of times, we'll get questions like, well, Sarah, how long do you schmooze for? Or, how much detail you go into? And I'm quite sure you can go into plenty of detail. I
Mhm.
heard that. And at the same time, you're dealing with a dominant client. I think you would run the risk of losing the client if you go into too much detail. So you've
True.
got to read the personality. Are you a student of any particular model, or is this just the Sarah school of learning it on the job?
Well, I think there is a lot of I can't take credit for myself. I mean, honestly, I do go to a lot of different real estate events. I feel that the more that you learn, the better you're able to serve your clients. So I do, reach out to Proctor, and all of their training sessions. I think one of the greatest training sessions for loan officers is probably Zenix. And I had my own mentors also, as I got into the business and just grew. You just continue to strive to go towards those that do it best in the industry and just seek their advice and use that.
Uh, Which is really important. It's funny, we don't use the word mentor much anymore, do we? And yet, I think they're so valuable. I still have a mentor. And I mentor people, but I wish we weren't so afraid of that word.
When you
And
need them.
yeah, kept an eye on that because there's just so much to be learned from people who have been there and done that. Remember as a kid watching The Wizard of Oz and watching them to the end, and where Dorothy, all she knew all the time. She had to do this and that, and I thought, boy, she could have used a mentor because she went through a lot of trouble to get to that point. We were dealing with witches and this. How about just somebody help me with it? I'm not a fan of the. I could have told you, Sarah, but you had to learn it yourself. That's good for an 8-year old, but
Right.
in business where you are, I'm not so sure that's the way we want to learn.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
A
And oh,
lot of
by the way,
times, yeah,
go ahead.
a lot
You
of
go.
times I'll go ahead and put together scenarios because in order for me to really determine what's best, I have to kind of see it myself. And when you see it in black and white, when you put the scenario together and you can see the different programs and you present them, it makes it a lot easier for the client to also see. And they can really decide which is better for them.
And I'm guessing that's where, and I've got a quote from you here, that you believe there's always a solution.
Correct.
And I think you're starting to give it some air right now, but stay on that because I looked at that and went, really, I'm selling every day. Is there always a solution? I'm curious of your take on that. Back that up.
Yeah. Well, there's always a solution, whether it is, just trying to look at their situation itself and looking at what their goal is, to buy an appreciating asset, a house. Does that mean that maybe they need to pay off some other debt, or is it maybe that they need to open up or, other opportunities such as pooling funds from a 401k, paying, off a car. There are oftentimes or paying down. A lot of times programs will allow us to not include in your debt to income ratios if you have less than 10 months on an installment loan. So sometimes giving them these little pieces of advice, we can find solutions that they may not have thought of. Looking at different programs out there, sometimes there are funds that are available that people are unaware. And so just bringing awareness of different programs, of the down payment assistance programs, of different ways of structuring. A lot of people think that when you're doing a conventional loan, you have to put 20% down, and you don't. And so just understanding what is out there, what's available, and just, I guess really just putting them in front, the different options in front of the client allows them to make a decision that's best for their family.
Perfect. And I'm going to bring back words of yours, if you don't mind, because you, in the first 30 seconds of this conversation, you brought in listening. You brought in, and it's twin, 1A and 1B, which is the asking the questions.
Right.
It's so sad that sometimes we have a sales force that's not willing to learn more, feels they know enough, and has lost touch with the fact that you don't know anything till you know unless you're reading minds, you don't know this client. So when you hear Sarah talk about queuing into the personality and probably developing a pace of how much information you're going to teach them, or whether they don't need to be taught a whole lot, all the moves that you make are coming really from you not talking, but you listening.
Correct.
And
Right.
and there's another word that, if you don't mind, that I'm going to throw on you, and that is the word empathy. I think you possess a great deal of empathy from what I've learned about you, and that means not just asking questions, but asking them in a sensitive way. Um, my goodness,
Right.
you're dealing with people's finances.
Yes. I mean, this is one of the biggest transactions they will ever make. And, it's not that they do a lot of purchasing of homes. Most people might only buy 2 or 3 homes in their entire life. And there might be many years between. And with all the different guidelines and changing, it's important, to help them to understand, what has changed, what, what things are available for them, what programs are out there, and just guide them. But you can't really do that unless you know what their real goal is.
Right.
And if you can understand what that is, then that helps you to really make sure that you can, smoothly take them through, the different transactions or different options, and allow them to go ahead and really get what they really want. I mean, I've even had people where one client comes to mind where she was getting ready to purchase another house, and she was going to sell the current house that she owned in order to do so. However, it really didn't make a lot of sense for her to do that, whereas she had a property that was in the Carolinas that was not appreciating quickly. And so she had paid that off, and she literally had me, she disagreed with me, to be honest with you, at first. And I suggested that she does a cash out on that one, takes the money, and then is able to go ahead and refinance the house that she had currently. And that would then open up and allow her to do the FHA that would give her the higher ratios, allowances, and everything else. So in doing so, she's now quite successful. She now has 18 properties, and I think only 5 of them with mortgages. So just a wonderful, wonderful. She is a mentor for me as well. She says that I help her, but I think she helps me more than I do her.
There you go. And you know what's really interesting about the story you just told is that you had the courage to disagree.
Oh yeah.
There are a lot of salespeople, they won't, they don't really belly up to the bar. Here's what I think. Well, I don't think so. Well, okay. Well, the last time I looked, you're the subject matter expert, and you're, people who handle my finances, I'm not the subject matter expert. I get frustrated sometimes when they can ask me certain questions, but that's why you're here. It's actually, that's one of my favorite sales tactics. Just, I'll throw one at you, which is when a client isn't sure they want to use a loan officer, and a client isn't sure if they want to buy a house, when a client isn't sure whether to sell a house, whenever you're tongue tied, you can always start the sentence the same way. That's why I'm here. And
Yep.
then you go from the, and so there's a lot of confusion in the industry. Well, I've done this before.
Right.
That's why I'm here. You've got some, I've never done it before. That's why I'm here. So it is, there's another book title for us. That's why I'm here. Let's double back, because I want to be true to to how I set our conversation up. And you've been all over it, but let's make sure that we don't bury the lead. We're talking about customer care. Um, I know for a fact I've watched you in action. And I've been tiptoeing around this, so not that there's a huge secret here, but Sarah helped with my daughter's mortgage. Tremendous help. So give me an example or two what it means to go the extra mile. And unfortunately, you can't use that example. Give me another one because I don't think that was an anomaly.
No, I think we always are looking for what's best for the client and understanding what their desire is. And so if you understand what they're trying to do, what their goal is, then you have the confidence to be able to say, well, this is a way we can get here. And if that doesn't really set well with you, then there's also plan B, plan C, plan D. There are different ways that we can still get there. And then just walking them through the different options, to get them where they need to be.
Yeah.
Maybe someone wants to rent their house, but maybe they're not confident to, or they don't want to be a landlord. Maybe they, just don't realize they can sell the house. They can go ahead and take those funds and use them. Or maybe they think they need to sell the house and they want really to rent it because, then that has another stream of income that they can continue to get. So there's all kinds of ways, buying down the rate, doing different buy downs, different options, first and a second trust. There's always solutions, and trying to really understand what it is, what the goal is from the client, then you can then give them the options that are out there in terms of the mortgages to fulfill that.
I'm going to cut through it a little bit more. Sarah, you care. You
I do.
care.
I do.
You care. I want to go back. If you remember, this could be 10 years ago. I don't remember the very first Jake from State Farm commercial. I know we got a zillion of them now, but you might not remember the first one where there's somebody is speaking to this State Farm agent, and it's fairly late at night, and the spouse comes down and says, "Who are you talking to?" Says, "It was Jake from State Farm." Give me that phone. Who is this? Jake from State Farm. But having that kind of conversation, I'm telling you why I'm bringing that up, because I actually said to Sandy, "Who is that? Jake from State Farm? You were talking to my daughter in the evening, in the morning." By the time I'd speak to her, I've got to talk to Sarah again. And that's when I thought, this loan officer is extraordinary. So I'm going to tell you, that's one of the things that when I say walk the walk, that's one of the things that I personally witnessed. And if I had been Sandy's husband, I would have said, who are you having that conversation with? But I'm grateful. But I want you to know, to me, it's another classic example of how you operate and why it's such a pleasure to have you on this show. Now, before your head gets too big.
Yeah, I know.
Come back down to earth here. What's the matter with you? No, tell me something that you wish you had known when you first started out, because you figured it out, Sarah. You're there, okay? But we all have our journey. If you could go back and you could reach a young Sarah and put your hand on her shoulder and whisper something in her ear about business, about this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
what would you tell her?
Well, I think I'd learned an awful lot by the trial and by fire, just jumping in and just trying. Whereas there are a lot more avenues that, like I mentioned earlier. I mean, there is one group that I think is incredibly useful and helpful for anyone, and I wish I would have found them earlier. And that's Zinix, and it's Casey Cunningham, and she's amazing. And I think when I finally found her, it was at a point in my career where I was looking for how to, instead of get clients, how to really manage the pipeline and how to, give the best service that I could possibly give, because I felt that, I don't want to lose that touch, that human piece of it. And going through her courses, what I realized that a lot of the things that took me years to learn are there, they're available. And I could just wonder where I would have gone had I started, with that. But you don't know what you don't know. And,
Right.
Right. If I could have started and had the actual basics, the background in which to build, I can just imagine things would be, even better than they are. I can't complain at all, though.
Yeah, sometimes it's a journey for a reason.
Yeah,
And yet, thank goodness we have people like that in our lives. And circling back to, let's not forget to put in plugs for mentors around here. Don't be
absolutely.
afraid to find somebody that you trust and open up a little bit. You'd be surprised what you can learn. All right, it's a last question for you. It's going to be a softball. All right, expect this
Okay,
one knocked over the fence. Is now a good time to buy?
absolutely. I mean, I guess it goes back to like, when is the best time to plant a tree?
Right,
20 years ago. When is the best
right,
time to buy? Now. And
right.
the reason, of course, is because, the prices of the houses are going to continue to go up. And, with what occurred back in 2008 with the mortgage crises, then it's all just kind of snowballed into where right now a lot of people who would normally sell their house in order to buy the next house are able to keep it because they have such low interest rates, because the Fed stepped in, bought mortgage-backed securities, they artificially lowered the interest rates. And many people have these historically low interest rates in the 2s and 3s. And so that allows them to have an extremely low mortgage payment, and they can rent. So there's very little inventory on the market right now. And we have a lot of people that are reaching that age where the first-time home buyer is coming into the market. That average age is about 34. And over the next 5 to 6 years, the sheer number that are going to continue means that the housing market is going to see, I guess, really just shortages in inventory. And so the prices are going to continue to go up. The interest rates, they will fluctuate as, the inflation comes down, the rates are going to come down. Anyone can always, refinance if it makes sense to do so. But if you were to wait, then the prices are going to continue to go up, and you're going to end up paying more for the house. And so obviously buying now, because it is that appreciation that one is really looking to build their wealth.
All right. Well said. And I can tell you from my junior loan officer seat over here, Rob Jollis's seat, I can tell you that a lot of times people, particularly when they have houses, are like they'll tell me, they'll ask the same question, and I don't know 1/10 of your business, but I always smile when I'm talking to somebody who has a home and says, I don't know if now's the right time, and I always go, oh, it's always the right time. I mean, I'm assuming you've been there a few years, and I say that because, well, if the market goes up and you're going to get more for your house, you're going to pay more for a house. If things go down, not going to get quite as much for your house. You don't have to pay quite as much for your house. It's not a stock. We can, when the market's up, you make more, you pay a little more. It's down, so I'm trying to figure out an equation where, unless we're leaving the state or going into another unusual location, where we're trying to time something, and I think that's what a lot of people do in your industry, like a stock. They're trying to time the market. That
Right.
makes sense.
Right.
All right. Well, Sarah, been an absolute pleasure. I'm
Thank
glad
you,
we had
Rob.
this opportunity to talk. You queen of customer service, you. And tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Well, you can always reach me through on the telephone, 703-929-1701. My website is my name, www.sarahpichardo.com. So either way, would love to talk to anyone and try to help them in every way I can.
You are the first loan officer I've ever had on, and you're probably going to be the last one. It has nothing to do with your performance. It has to do with, I have to know who I'm talking to before I put them on this show. And I feel very confident talking to you. For those of you who are looking at that website, Sarah is spelled rather normal, Sarah, but you might need some help with Pichardo. So it's SarahPichardo.com. And that's how you can get to her website. And if you're looking for some assistance here, real grateful to have had the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you so much for not only helping us, but helping my family personally. I wish you nothing but success. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everyone. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.